and be trained by masculine men. You know, I got into it like a little while ago, and I was getting a massive amount of abuse from women online because I said the answer to unhealthy masculinity is healthy masculinity, not femininity. But then I was getting a lot of women saying that no, femininity heals everything, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, the reason why we have unstable men is because they're too feminine. They become like erratic and needy and stuff like that. That's not to say that there aren't elements of that in the feminine that aren't beautiful. There's chaos with the feminine. It's beautiful. But a chaotic man that's too dominant in his feminine and is going to be overriding his masculine with femininity, it doesn't create anything stable from an essence of masculinity. And so it's really important because a man will lead. And if a healthy masculine man leads, he's not going to want to lead. He'll be called to lead. He'll just be put in that position. So he won't, whereas you see other people that say like, I'm a leader, I'm this, I'm that. That's someone that's compensating as a boy pretending to be a man. Like I didn't want to lead. I was put into that position. I was put into talking to the feminist agenda, to standing up for what I believe is right by being super analytical and objective about it and opening it up and studying the origins of where it came from, what it's done to masculinity, what it's done to femininity. The feminist movement has damaged femininity more than anything else, but it was an attack on masculinity. And it was designed in the Frankfurt School in Germany in 1923 to make men the oppressors and women the oppressed. If women and men out there knew the origins of this, they wouldn't be fighting for it because it goes against their natural essence. So I've had to really stand up and be like, no, this is wrong. It wasn't to lead. It was because I believed in it. And I knew that that was the facts of the origin of these movements. Same with transgender movement, same with the attack on masculinity, the attack on femininity, the sexual revolution. These are all communist ploys to take over the political landscape of the world. And that's been brought into the masculine and feminine polarity dynamics at the moment, which have been very toxic. Everything that's masculine is toxic now, and everything that's feminine is the cure for everything, which is creating a massive imbalance. And this is what I say to everyone. I'm like, masculinity is fucking awesome. It is. It's amazing. It's such a beautiful part, but it's magnetism. I had one woman comment on one of my posts, and she was like, oh, masculine and femininity are outdated concepts, right? And I said, okay, then what is it? She goes, oh, it's about getting to the 0 point of the soul. I'm like, do you even understand what 0 point is in the world of physics? Do you even know what you're talking about? Or are you trying to be this modern thing of complete androgyny where we're not masculine and feminism, masculine and feminine? And I said to her, and I went, so you mean to tell me you, as a human being, are saying that masculine and feminine dynamics are outdated? And she's like, yes, but she went on to say feminism is the way forward. But I said, okay, so you're telling me if we take the words out, masculine, feminine, we look at polarity, which is magnetism, electromagnetism, which is physics, that you as a human being know better than the forces of life that created you. And you're saying that the system that created you and every ecosystem on the planet, every celestial body, every star, every animal on this planet, you're saying that that force is outdated because you think you know better than it. And she's like, thanks for mansplaining. And I was like, yeah, right. And I was like, well, I didn't know that you were like the master of the universe. I need a few things. Can I put in an order, seeing as you know better than the force that created you? So it was kind of like this absurd nature. And this is where the toxicity of it can start to lean in, the unhealthy aspect, where I look at things objectively, whereas this woman was just trying to prove a point. And I love it when like that happens on this, because when people start referring to insults personally, that's where I kind of know that they don't have much left in the tank. But once we understand the real true dynamics, masculine and feminine is magnetism. It's electromagnetism. It's physics. It's positive, negative. It's north and south pole. It's light and dark. They're two sides of the same coin that are dancing together, and they need to both be honored for their essence of what they are, rather than women trying to become men through the feminist movement and be too masculine, which is against their essence. And then what they're doing is they're conquering and dominating men, which they blame men for doing to them. So they haven't actually gone anywhere at the deepest level. They're just perpetuating a thing that they say that they don't want. So sorry, I went off there. Like, this is like, we don't know where we're going to go, but yeah, that's a fair bit there.
That was a powerful tangent. There were a lot of threads that came into that one. Yeah. And I read a book recently, and it was called The Oracle. The Oracle.
I know
the Queen.
The Oracle, Queen, and the Whore.
Yeah. Yes. I read that. Yeah. And I wanted to get him on the podcast, but I didn't realize he's died. He died at a really young.
Yeah, like 31 or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, the book was very eye-opening, triggering, all of it. But there's such, I think what was so powerful about it was you could so clearly see how there has been a war on masculinity, a war on the feminine, all these different, climate change is one that's coming up now that's kind of pulling us. Maybe this is what it feels like for me, but look over here, here's climate change. It's pulling us away from what's actually going on in the world. Yeah. And so there's all these agendas, and he speaks so beautifully to, feminism, communism, which I'm in Canada. We can very much see how Canada's kind of leaning towards communism at the minute. So for you, with all, the war on masculinity, all the things that you spoke about so beautifully there, what is the agenda with all of that?
Yeah, good question. So feminism is an arm of communism. Okay. And like people will go, no, it isn't. We want equal rights. We want to be the same. It's like, what do you think communism is? It's the same thing. So a communist takeover, which started back in 2001 with the Twin Towers, is destabilization. That's the first arm of it, right? The second is demoralization, right? Sorry, they're mixed around. Demoralization is first, then destabilization. Okay. And then what comes after that is crisis, and then normalization. And it's about a 20-year period that this operates over. And I actually explained this to the woman that said, thanks for mansplaining. And then I'll go through it, and her response to this was, oh, that just sounds like you're talking to yourself, right? So the demoralization was around the Twin Towers being collapsed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that started to put people into a lot of fear. Like there's this invisible enemy. The enemies everywhere, the war on terror, the war on drugs. There's always a war on something. And then destabilization, that was the global financial crisis in 2008. That was to create economic disparity, to put people into a fear state again and collapse the economy. Then the third one is crisis, and that's where we're at the moment. And we're in the again, an invisible enemy, terrorism, economic threat. Now it's a virus, right? That's the crisis. But what else is an invisible threat? Climate change. Like you can kind of say, all right, cool. Well, maybe it's heating up. Maybe the time's getting hotter. Look at this crazy weather. And it's like, yeah, it's just going through a natural shift. But it's an agenda that's been put in for a long time. And then we look at the new normal, right? Normalization. We say, oh, that's the new normal now. Oh, it's the new normal. That's why they have been stating it everywhere. Like Canada and Australia are fairly similar in their communist approaches, but it's wrapped up in this virtue signaling of we've got to save the planet. And from all my research in all of this, is one world government, total top-down control through digital currencies, which are CBDCs, which are central bank digital currencies. So they can have complete top-down control and monitor everyone with what they're doing. And it's to eliminate the current financial system, which is a fiat system, it's a scam anyway. It's a Ponzi scheme, because if you look at principal and interest can't actually exist, right? When I talk to people about house values going up, I'm like, it doesn't require, the house isn't worth more, money's worth less. It requires more money to buy the same object. That's inflation. So inflation is actually money becoming worth less because it's not backed to anything. There's no gold behind it. So governments just keep printing money. So if I have $2 and I lend them to you and I say, but you owe me $3, what do? We have to create another one. But then each one is created with debt. And so it's created with the interest in it, but the interest can't exist because it's an infinite growth system based on a finite resource. That system is bankrupt, and all of our money and assets have been stolen, and they have to use the threat of something bigger to bring this in. So now it's going to be the carbon emissions. And when your carbon footprint's too big, you're not going to be able to buy something. If you don't adhere to what the government says, they're going to clamp you down. They're going to cut off your bank account. It's for ultimate control. And we're seeing that with the barcode check-ins. We're seeing that with the sign-in things, with the PCR test, the wearing masks. This is all a psychological operation to get people into compliance. And that's where we're headed. But I talk to a fair bit about this with people, and they say, well, it's obviously going to go bad. I said, if it was going to go bad, we'd already be in it. We wouldn't know it. But there's also another contagion, which is awakening. And the awakening, once you wake up, you can't go back to sleep. You can't put that back in the box. And so as people awake more and more and more, there's a wave, like they've kind of shot themselves in the foot. They really did the job was ridiculously stupid how they did it. They're masterful in their approach in a lot, but they kind of didn't really think it through. So now they're having to go to the climate change aspect in it all, because it's like, I care about the planet. No one believes really COVID anymore. If you're still getting your vaccine and stuff like that, they probably won't be listening to this, but you're a fucking idiot. Like if you don't, like, to put it directly, right? Like, fuck, like, come on, like wake the fuck up,
It's right in front of your face. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. So, but some people here, they're not meant to wake up. That's their karma, and that's okay, right? But there's been so many people waking up that it can't help, but the wave has crashed. And now people don't believe in the government anymore. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot. So that's where the agenda is going, I believe. Full top-down control, Hunger Games style, food scarcity, all that sort of stuff. Where I think it's going to head is I think it's going to break within the next 3 to 4 years. I don't believe they'll achieve their objective. There are too many people that are aware of it now, and they just go, well, hang on, you're just a person. Fuck off. You don't get to tell me what to do or how to live my life. Get out of my life. And so it's a necessary revealer to show where these things have always been there. They've always been there, these things, but now it's just coming to light. And so we have to bring the darkness to light to unify and to heal, as a collective, as a species. Do we make it? I don't know. Do I think this is the first time this has happened? No, I don't. I think there's been multiple ones of these that have run time and time and time again, ad infinitum. And I think that's just part of the realm that we're in.